Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
Cersei Lannister said this to her son Joffrey in Season 1, Episode 3. It's the last line of a scene that reveals exactly where Joffrey learned to be a monster. Not from Robert, who ignored him. Not from some innate evil, but from his mother, who taught him that cruelty, paranoia, and an us versus them mentality were the keys to power. This scene is a masterclass in how toxic parenting creates monsters. Cersei thinks she's teaching Joffrey to be a strong king. Instead, she's teaching him to be a tyrant. Let's examine exactly what Cersei teaches Joffrey in this conversation, why her lessons are poison, and how they directly lead to his worst decisions as king. Lesson 1. Strategic kindness is manipulation. The scene begins with Cersei giving Joffrey an order. Do something nice for the Stark girl. Joffrey's response is immediate and revealing. I don't want to, like a petulant child. And Cersei replies, no, but you will. The occasional kindness will spare all sorts of trouble down the road. This is the first poison lesson. Kindness is not kindness. It's a tool, a manipulation. Some of these parents to be said that penance because they cannot following their lives. This lesson takes root. Later when Joffrey executes Ned Stark, he doesn't understand why it's a problem. After all, his mother taught him that kindness to the Starks was just strategic theater. So when it's no longer strategic, when he wants to show his power, he drops the act and does what he really wants. Lesson 2. Too much power for others is dangerous. Then Joffrey asks a question that seems to come from his lessons. We allow the Northerners too much power. They consider themselves our equals. This isn't Joffrey's original thought. This is something he's learned, probably from Cersei herself. The idea that other powerful families are a threat just by existing. That anyone who considers themselves your equal is dangerous and needs to be crushed. Cersei doesn't contradict this. She doesn't say, actually, the great houses are our allies, or we need the North's loyalty. She just asks, how would you handle them? She's not correcting his paranoid worldview. She's encouraging him to develop it, to think through how he'd crush people who dare to see themselves as equals. Lesson 3. Crush through force and centralization. Joffrey's answer reveals he's been thinking about this. I'd double their taxes and command them to supply 10,000 men to the royal army. This is pure tyranny. Double the taxes. Punish them economically, take their men, strip their military power. But Joffrey doesn't stop there. He has a vision. Why should every lord command his own men? It's primitive. We should have a standing army of men loyal to the crown, trained by experienced soldiers, instead of a mob of peasants who've never held pikes in their lives. Interestingly, this isn't entirely wrong strategically. A professional standing army would be more effective than feudal levies. Many real-world kingdoms moved in this direction, but Joffrey's reasoning is telling. He doesn't want a standing army for military effectiveness. He wants it to strip power from the lords, to centralize all military might under the crown so no one can challenge him. And when Cersei asks what he'd do if the North rebelled, his answer is immediate. I'd crush them. Seize Winterfell and install someone loyal to the realm as Warden of the North. Uncle Kevin maybe. Crush, seize, install. This is the language of conquest, not governance. And Cersei doesn't tell him he's wrong. She just tests his logic. The critical question. Loyalty. Cersei asks the key question. And these 10,000 northern troops, would they fight for you or their lord? Joffrey's answer reveals everything about how he sees kingship. For me, I'm their king. He genuinely believes that being king means automatic loyalty, that his title compels obedience regardless of his actions. Cersei points out the flaw. You've just invaded their homeland, asked them to kill their brothers, and Joffrey doubles down. I'm not asking. This is the tyrannical mindset perfectly distilled. Kings don't ask. Kings command. And people obey because they're the king. That's it. No need for loyalty earned through good governance or wise decisions. Just naked authority. This is exactly how Joffrey rules. He never asks, he commands. And when people don't obey immediately, he's genuinely shocked and responds with violence. Cersei's actual wisdom. Too late. Here's where Cersei tries to teach actual statecraft. The North cannot be held, not by an outsider. It's too big and too wild. And when the winter comes, the 7 gods together couldn't save you and your royal army. This is actually good advice. The North is too vast to occupy, too loyal to the Starks, too difficult to conquer and hold. She continues, a good king knows when to save his strength and when to destroy his enemies. This could be wise. Pick your battles. Don't waste resources on unwinnable fights. Destroy real threats but don't create unnecessary enemies. But then Joffrey asks, "So you agree the Starks aren't enemies?" And here's where Cersei delivers the poison pill that undoes any wisdom she just shared. Everyone who isn't us is an enemy. The most toxic lesson, universal enmity. Everyone who isn't us is an enemy. This is the core of Cersei's worldview, and she's teaching it to her son. Not judge people by their actions, not build alliances carefully, not trust but verify. Just everyone who isn't us is an enemy. This worldview makes governance impossible. If everyone is an enemy, you can never build genuine alliances. You can never trust advisors. You can never create stability. And critically, it makes you paranoid, insulated, and cruel. Because if everyone is an enemy, every interaction is a threat. Every decision requires crushing potential opposition. This is exactly how Joffrey rules. The Starks, enemies. Execute Ned Stark despite promising mercy. The small folk, enemies. When they throw dung at him, order his guards to kill them all. His uncle Tyrion, enemy. Constant mockery and attempts to undermine him. His betrothed Sansa, enemy. Torment her at every opportunity. Everyone who isn't us, meaning Cersei, Jaime, and himself, is treated as a threat to be crushed or humiliated. What Cersei got wrong? Cersei thinks she's teaching Joffrey to be strong, to be strategic, to protect their family's power. But what she's actually teaching him, kindness is always manipulation, never genuine, just a tool. This makes him incapable of building real relationships or loyalty. When people are kind to Joffrey, he assumes they're scheming. When he's kind to others, it's always strategic and temporary. He never learns that genuine goodwill builds stronger alliances than fear. Others with power are threats. Any lord, any house, anyone with influence is automatically dangerous. This makes him paranoid and aggressive toward the very people who should be his allies. The Tyrells, the Martells, even his own family members. Anyone with power becomes someone to undermine or humiliate, rather than work with. Force solves everything. Crush rebellion, seize territory, double taxes, install loyalists, never negotiate or compromise. This makes every problem a nail, and violence the only hammer. Diplomacy, weakness. Negotiation, cowardice. The only acceptable response to any challenge is overwhelming force. Being king means automatic obedience. I'm their king means they'll fight for you even after you invade their homeland. Authority comes from title, not earned loyalty. This makes him genuinely confused when people don't immediately obey. He cannot comprehend that respect must be earned, that loyalty must be built. He thinks the crown itself compels obedience. Everyone is an enemy, the fundamental worldview that poisons everything else. Impossible to govern when you see threats everywhere. This creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Treat everyone as an enemy and they eventually become one. Joffrey enters every interaction assuming hostility, which creates actual hostility, which confirms his worldview. These lessons create a tyrant, not a king. And Cersei can't see it because these are her own lessons, her own worldview. She's teaching Joffrey to be like her, paranoid, cruel, and ultimately self-destructive. The consequences. Ned's execution. This scene takes place in Season 1, Episode 3. By Episode 9, Joffrey executes Ned Stark. The execution is a direct result of what Cersei taught him. Cersei told him to show kindness to Sansa strategically, so when the strategy changes, when he wants to demonstrate his power, he drops the kindness immediately. Ned was promised mercy? Doesn't matter. Joffrey is king. He doesn't ask. Cersei taught him the Starks are enemies, everyone who isn't us. So why show mercy to an enemy? Crush them instead. Cersei taught him that being king means automatic obedience. So when people gasp at his decision, he's confused. He's the king. His word is law. Why are they shocked? The execution plunges the realm into war. The North rebels. Robb Stark marches south with his bannermen. The War of the Five Kings begins. Thousands die in battles across Westeros. All because Joffrey learned from his mother that enemies should be crushed, that kingship means not having to ask, and that everyone who isn't us is a threat. Think about the chain of destruction this single decision creates. The North goes to war. Robb wins every battle, but ultimately loses the war at the Red Wedding. The young wolf dies. His pregnant wife dies. His mother dies. Thousands of Northmen die. The Riverlands become a battlefield. Towns burn. Fields destroyed. Small folk slaughtered or starved. An entire region devastated. Other kings rise up. Stannis, Renly, Balon Greyjoy, All see weakness and opportunity. The realm fractures into civil war, and it all traces back to this. Joffrey executing Ned Stark because his mother taught him that showing mercy to enemies was weakness, that being king meant never having to explain yourself, that crushing threats was always the answer. The irony, Cersei's own lessons destroy her. The ultimate irony is that Cersei's lessons to Joffrey eventually contribute to the destruction of everything she's trying to protect. She teaches him that everyone is an enemy, so he creates enemies constantly. The Starks, the small folk, the Tyrells who become his in-laws, even his own uncles. He cannot distinguish between genuine threats and potential allies, because his mother taught him there's no difference. She teaches him to rule through fear and force, so he becomes increasingly tyrannical and hated. Every decision he makes creates more enemies, which confirms the worldview Cersei taught him, which leads to more cruelty, which creates more enemies. A vicious cycle. She teaches him that kindness is manipulation, so he never builds genuine loyalty from anyone. Not the king's guard, not the lords, not even the servants who could poison his wine, which is exactly what happens. And when he dies at his own wedding, poisoned by people who found him intolerable, Cersei is devastated. But she created this. She taught him to be this way. She wanted to make him strong. She made him cruel. And cruelty without wisdom gets you killed.